It's said that each of us has a fire that burns inside us, but can that fire be a literal one? The human body is capable of many things, can endure many things, and in mysterious ways and under mysterious circumstances, tonight's case makes you wonder if a body can self-destruct. Joan Crawford once said, "Love is a fire, but whether it's going to warm your hearth or burn down your house, you can never tell."
Are we taking our shot?
Yeah.
Is that tequila?
It's not.
What is it?
It's our surprise shot.
Would you like to split our tequila, and so you can have some
No, I'm okay.
tequila?
He's just going to be bitter about it the whole time.
Probably really passive aggressive.
Probably just for in the next 3 days or so.
Well, before we do the surprise shot, I do want to welcome our newest Patreon member.
Oh, yeah.
Bria.
Hey, Bria, welcome. Thank you for supporting us.
And she's already got a story request that she's got for John. And this evening, we are doing a surprise shot for Justin.
Hello, Justin. Thank you.
For those of you who don't remember, those who are a Taco Supremo on Patreon supporting us at $10 a month, they get a surprise shot dedicated to them. This was not a request from Justin, but I picked this one out. It looked really, really delicious. So this one's for you.
All right, Justin, thank you for your support, and thank you to all of our Taco Supremos out there and our Patreon supporters. We couldn't do this without you. So this is for you, Justin. I hope you like it, and I hope I can remember the beat to the song this week. Surprise shots, surprise shots. We don't know what they are, because they're a surprise.
I've already been drinking a little bit. Let's just be honest.
It's like that scene in Austin Powers. Did you soil yourself?
Cheers!
It sounds a bit like it, didn't it?
Oh, it smells delish.
I'm very
Ooh.
excited about this one.
I am too, I think. Oh, that's good. Is that like a praline liquor?
That was Stroopwafel.
Is that German?
It's Belgian.
Belgian.
Oh my god.
There's a little bit left if you guys want to split it.
Yeah. What?
I think it was a whiskey. Let me go
That's
grab the bottle.
amazing.
Welcome to Talk Murder to Me podcast. My name is John. I put all my sources, photos, videos, and whatnot on talkmurder.com. This is episode 242.
Wow.
Crazy shit. 242. So go to talkmurder.com. I'm not going to lie with this one. I know I say this every time, but there's some episodes that you don't want to miss the pictures, and you actually have to see the pictures on these because they're fucked up. And you definitely want to see them. So anyway, go to talkmurder.com to see the photos here. And it is episode 242. This is the suspicious demise of a widow, 67-year-old Mary Reeser from St. Petersburg, Florida.
All right.
Anybody heard of her?
No. I will have to say, though, just a comment, like, I know some of our episodes are like an hour, some of them are like 2, the older ones were like really
7
long.
hours.
But do you, like think about it, 242 episodes, we must have at least 24 hours worth of content on here. So if you want to marathon us for a whole
We
day.
have way more than that. Are you serious?
240 hours.
Literally 300 hours of fucking
That's
content.
what I meant.
What the fuck?
20.
Holy shit. Yeah, in the first 10 episodes, there's 24 hours. That didn't even make any sense.
Oh, shit. Mr. John, you can cut that.
Like
I mean, you probably won't, but it's whatever. I know that he's going to leave that in just like my wildfires.
No, you know what? He cut out the whole Constitution Declaration of Independence thing for you.
I did.
Oh, thank you.
But
Not
just,
the wildfire comment.
but just to revisit that, Jen thought the Constitution.
No, I didn't think. I knew it was wrong immediately after it came out of my mouth.
Welcome to this night's episode. This is the Talk Murder to Me podcast. My name is John. I'm here with Jen and Nicole. I put all my sources, photos, and videos on talkmurder.com. This is episode 242. This is the baffling and that is from the newspapers. The baffling case of Mary Reeser. She was a widow who was married once to a doctor, but he passed away, unfortunately. And then she passes away under very mysterious circumstances. And this is a fascinating case. This case is one of the best I've done. Murder, suicide, accident, or natural phenomenon case.
Unnatural phenomena or natural phenomena?
Natural, like natural causes.
The photo you're looking at right now is of 1200 Cherry Street. Tonight we are going to Monday, July 2nd, 1951. So what is this? This looks like a house to you. Pretty big house, right?
Yeah. It says the Alamanda Apartments.
So this is 1200 Cherry Street. I don't know. This is a black and white photo. You can't really see for the trees, but see if you can tell me. Maybe you can tell me what state this is by the trees. No, probably not. This is what you're looking at now is the now photo of the same building. 1200 Cherry Street.
Well, you said it took place in St. Petersburg, Florida, right? Or is it not?
Oh, did I say that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you did.
Oh, well, then there you go.
We should have just said Florida and have them marvel that we guessed it
Yeah.
right that time.
All right, so what you're looking at now is a very small apartment. Now, when I use the word apartment tonight, remember this photo because it is basically a house converted into an apartment.
Interesting.
This is a one-floor
Like a duplex.
duplex. It has
Okay.
5 units in it.
Oh, wow.
And Mary Reeser, the victim tonight, was a tenant of one of those rooms.
Did they like share a kitchen and just have their own separate bedrooms?
No, that's a good question. They didn't share. Everyone had their own apartment with everything included.
Interesting.
But it wasn't filled out all the way. There was only 2 tenants in the apartment at the time, plus the landlord who also lived there. As of now, from Zillow.com, it is a 5-unit, 1-story house that is used as an apartment, and it is still used to this day. The same thing.
Interesting.
So this is 1200 Cherry Street in St. Petersburg, Florida. Monday, July 2nd, 1951.
I wonder what the rent goes for nowadays.
So, 1951, July 2nd, 8 a.m. in the morning, a Western Union boy comes to the door. Now, he goes into the apartment, obviously, into the front door, and he is going to a 67-year-old widow's apartment, Mary Reeser. Now, what I've learned about Western Union back in the day is if a Western Union boy comes to your abode, then you would give him 10 cents or whatever the current rate was to receive the telegram. Once he got that 10 cents, he would give you the telegram.
Got it.
So that's how it was during this time. Now, he went to Mary Reeser's apartment, which was in this same complex, but she didn't answer the door at all. Her neighbor, which was a good friend of hers, an elderly lady, a neighbor, also a good friend. I'm a little drunk. That's why I'm slurring. Banana, 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 banana. Now,
That's a new routine, guys. I've never seen that one before from him.
The Western Union boy cannot get Mary Reeser to come to the door at all. So he goes to the next apartment, and her neighbor comes to the door. She is also an elderly lady, and she's clueless. She's like, not only is she supposed to be there because that's her routine. If you're 67 years old, you're not spontaneous. You have a routine, and everyone kind of knows the routine. She is supposed to be there, but she does remember, and this is really important, a quote, dull thud, end quote, around 5 a.m. in the morning. The neighbor does. It sounded like it was coming from Mary Reeser's apartment. She wasn't sure, but she opened the door. She looked out into the hall, the shared hall of all the apartments. She didn't see nothing. She didn't see anyone. anything suspicious, so she went back to bed. Plus, every morning, if you're, like I said, if you're 67 years old, you have a routine. This neighbor, every morning when she woke up to get her tea, she would always hear the radio playing in Mary's apartment. Thin walls, the radio is playing, Elvis is on. The Western Union boy gives the telegram to the neighbor, and then he's on his way. Now, the neighbor lady, she walks over to Mary Reeser's apartment. She tries to open the door, which was slightly ajar, but the door handle was really hot to the touch.
Oh, that's a sign of a fire.
So she didn't go any further in. However, there were a couple painters that were already early to work that morning. They were painting the outside of the apartment complex. So she went and roped them in, and they agreed to go into the apartment and see if they can find Mary. As soon as they entered the apartment, smoke poured out. Now, they did not know that the apartment was on fire at all, but there had been a fire in the apartment. And from the assistant fire chief who showed up with his crew, his name is S.O. Griffith. He claims that to an untrained eye, just a regular citizen, you would not notice the little amount of smoke emanating from the front door. And it was a screen door. And then you have the main door. Mm-hmm. The main door was slightly ajar. Mm-hmm. They could not actually see the fire coming from the apartment.
Well, maybe it looked like someone was smoking their cigarette or something, because that was pretty popular back then.
Good point.
Can I ask a question? Mm-hmm. I mean, I just asked a question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. When did the smoke detector...
when did it become available?
It went to the public. I don't think it wasn't available back then, was it, in the 50s?
No, that's a good question. Let me look that up. I didn't think about that.
That's a great question, yeah.
Smoke detector history. Smoke detectors have been around since the late 1890s.
Oh, well, I guess I was wrong.
George Andrew Darby patented the first heat and smoke detector in 1902 in Birmingham, England. 20 years later, Swiss physicist Walter Jaeger was working to invent a sensor for poison gas, but was failing. The result was the isolation smoke alarm.
Well, I was wrong, but that was very informative. Thank you, John, for...
The neighbor and the painters, they did enter the apartment, but they quickly left out once the smoke hit them, and the neighbor did notice a, quote, red smoldering mass, end quote. Kind of important.
There's a blaze.
This is Mary Reeser right here. Can you describe her to our audience?
She is an older lady.
She has her hair in an updo.
Yeah.
Glasses.
She probably looks like an older 67 than you would find today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Huh?
Yeah, if you put a current 67-year-old next to this picture, it would not be similar. My mom is turning 67 this year.
Yeah, your mom looks way younger. She looks like this person looks like an old lady, and she's pretty young for only 67.
Can you describe her body type?
What's the word we use?
She looks matronly.
Yeah, but what the word about the breasts is?
Voluptuous.
No, not voluptuous. There was a word that we used during that episode.
Big titties. Wait.
The episode.
Busty?
No, not busty. The Starvation Heights. There was a word that meant to have big breastises.
Voluptuous.
No, it was not voluptuous.
Oh, well endowed? Oh,
no.
That's a penis. Never mind.
You just wanted to say penis. We all know that.
That's bullshit. Who you're looking at now is a 67-year-old widow. This is Mary Reeser. She was married to a doctor, but her husband died unexpectedly, suddenly. So now she is a widow.
Does she have any children?
She does. She does have one son that we know of who was a doctor at the time. But, and we'll get to him in a little bit. But this is her right here. Go to talkmore.com to see her photo. She looks like a nice old lady. Now, when Assistant Fire Chief Griffith, entered the premise with his fire crew, he noticed that instantly the smoke was overwhelming, which is kind of suspect because none of the other neighbors in the apartment nor the landlord knew anything about the fire at all. There was a fire burning in this apartment and nobody knew.
It must have been contained somehow, though, as not to do any damage to the other units in the house.
No, it didn't do any other damage, but I doubt they had any sort of fire alarm or whatever because there was nothing that I saw of a smoke detector or whatever. No one knew that there was a fire until they actually entered the apartment. And in fact, the neighbor and the painters, they didn't even know there was a fire until they entered the apartment. The fire crew knew because the smoke, they could tell the smoke emanating, but just barely from the door. Now, the ceilings were completely blackened. Completely. And the curtains up were completely blackened. When I say curtains up, I mean about 4 feet off the ground. From that point to the ceiling were blackened. But this is extremely important.
Okay.
The fact that the curtains were only blackened 4 feet to the ceiling and that the walls were only blackened 4 feet to the ceiling
Means it wasn't burning that long.
is extremely important
Heat
for
rises.
this case.
But
Okay.
it means it hadn't been going for that long.
All the light switches and the plastic, this, that, and the other, the electrical stuff was not melted whatsoever, but it was extremely hot to the touch. And there were some of the electrical appliances that had burned out because of the intense heat.
Okay.
Now, here is the room, the outlay of the room. This is her apartment right here.
It's like a studio.
Go to talkmore.com to see this. Yeah, it's like a studio. You see the kitchenette?
Mm-hmm.
A day chair was sitting right by that kitchenette. And the day chair was a lazy boy, a recliner. And it was, quote, overstuffed, end quote. So it was very comfortable to sit in. And that was backed up right next to the kitchenette. This is the actual fire damage in the apartment.
Oh, wow.
So let me go back right quick. Look at the kitchenette. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, keep that in your mind, that layout of the kitchenette, and then go to here. Do you see the kitchenette, where the kitchenette is?
Well, is that the front door? What is that?
No. This is the fire. The fire happened right by the kitchenette.
Okay, so we're just looking at the fire.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I see a stove.
There you go.
Okay.
So what do you notice about this photo that's weird to you?
It only damaged the wall just.
It's very isolated.
Yeah.
It's very concentrated. The fire, there was a fire.
But it also looks like it caused a lot of damage.
There was a fire. There's no doubt about that. But it was extremely isolated. And if you look at the walls, it's about 4 feet, maybe 3 feet. You see where it becomes black, and then it goes up until it's completely charred. And you look at the ceiling there. That ceiling is not black to begin with. Those ceilings are painted white or whatever color apartments use. That is completely charred, soaked in soot. Completely saturated.
So does that mean something went up in flames really fast and then went
it's
out?
probably a kitchen fire.
Well, I'm just hold on. Just look at the picture. This is what happened.
Okay.
But it's completely isolated. This is exactly what they saw when they went in there. Now, the fire crew, they go into the apartment and they clear this thing out. Now, you're seeing lights here that light up the apartment. When there's a fire in an apartment, there are no lights. The lights only get there once the investigation team arrives and they manually put up lights. The lights are done. I mean, you see, it burned out all the lights. You can't see anything. It's pretty much black in that apartment. Here, you can see some of the damage. What you're looking at now, and I'll put this photo on talkmurder.com, is two men. I believe one of them at least is a police officer. He looks like he's wearing a police officer hat.
Mm-hmm.
One man is using a rake or a broom of some sort.
Shovel, looks like.
Shovel. They're combing through the remnants, what's left of this inferno that happened. Now, okay, this talk murder me. What the fuck? Like, this is just a regular house fire. Like, there's nothing weird about this, right?
Well, was there any accelerant found?
Mary's oversized chair was completely incinerated. In fact, that's what you're looking at now. The only thing that remained of this big lazy boy, this oversized, overstuffed chair that seems so comfortable, was the metal springs. The only thing were these two little dinky springs, and you can, like, you know, look like little door stoppers, you know, that the springs on the doors. Those were the only things left of this chair. And it was, what you're seeing now is a completely isolated fire that only burned this one specific chair, just lit up this chair.
So the chair was highly flammable.
Now, the assistant fire chief and his men were walking through, and okay, we got to find Mary. We know there's a 67-year-old widow that is supposed to be here. They start to leave. They start to leave in great spirits because, hey, guess what? She wasn't here. She must have been. She must have been at her son's house. She must have been on her yearly vacation, which we'll talk about. She's gone. This is great. Not only did a fire not kill Mary Reeser, but it only burned a very small portion of her apartment. This is great news, right?
Until they find her body.
Wrong. She was sitting in the chair.
Smoking a cigarette.
On the way out, one of the firemen slips, busts his ass. He's got his big tank on his back, his mask, and he's got his axe. You know, he's got his abs like all firemen have. They got those six-pack abs, and he's just so hot. He slips on this quote, greasy substance, end quote, on the floor.
Gasoline?
This greasy substance actually was saturated, not just on the floor and the rug that he slipped on. And keep in mind, he busted his ass right on the floor. This greasy substance was also on the walls. It was everywhere. Everywhere. They could not figure out what this greasy substance was. This fireman actually, I'm guessing he's a rookie, slipped on it, busted his ass, and now he's on the floor. Now look at this photo right here. Because as you saw in the previous photos, this is where the fire was. Let me go back for you guys. This is the fire. This is the only part of the house that has a fire. Look at this photo. You see the fire, obviously, and then you see this. The fireman slipped, busted his tailbone, looking around, hoping his sergeant didn't see. He tries to get himself up. He braces himself. He's got a big tank on his back, so he's all heavy. He's trying to get up. And he notices this. This is the exact image that he saw. So you can go to talkmurder.com to see this. Can you describe this?
Hot damn.
Oh, there's a leg. Leg with a foot and a shoe. Right? That's what I'm looking at?
Yeah, that is a tibia and fibula attached to a foot in a shoe.
What you're looking at now is a beautiful designer suede shoe housed with a human foot that goes up about 4 or 5 inches. The ankle of the human foot is actually severed off, completely severed off. Now, where's the rest
of the
leg?
leg? It's really right before the knee.
It's below the knee is severed.
Yeah, it was the ankle.
No,
That's
the ankle is intact.
The calf, whatever. It's the bone, the ankle bone, whatever. What is missing out of this photo? There is one leg and there's nothing else. Now, this is the chair. This is the oversized chair. You see some of the frame there and you see the springs. What is missing here?
The rest of the body.
All that is here is a leg, and it's not even a full leg. The firemen didn't even notice this until they were leaving. This is 2 hours later, and they notice this. There's a human leg housed in a suede shoe. Now look at the suede shoe. Is it burned in any way?
No, not touched.
It's completely unharmed.
It's almost as if, like, she had, like, if everything else was in contact with the fire, or let's say she, like, spontaneously combusted, and it was, like, left leg, that looks like a right leg, right foot. So, like, left leg was sitting down, and the right leg, you guys on YouTube can kind of see this, but, like, if her right leg was sticking out, and that got saved, but nothing else. Everything else is incinerated.
So this is another photo I found.
Fascinating.
So obviously somebody cut that leg off, right?
No.
A fire's not going to burn your entire body, completely incinerate your. There's no part of her there.
Well, it's
Look at the picture. There's nothing. There's not a spine. There's not a pelvis. There's nothing but a fucking ankle housed in a suede shoe.
Was it a fake leg? Did she have both of her legs?
There's nothing there.
But it could have been that something, like, looking at the rest of the fire, it seems like something went up in flames really rapidly. And, you know, whether there was an accelerant or it was just something super highly flammable. So
Was she an amputee?
I'm just thinking it could, whatever caused her to catch on fire, it went up in flames so fast and rapidly. Like, if there was an accelerant, perhaps it just wasn't on that leg.
Right. Yeah. Like, maybe she spilled her like, drink.
Right.
But if she was an amputee and had a steel leg, of course, I don't think they were using steel back in the 50s, but if it was steel, that wouldn't have been burned. But, I mean, this is the 50s. It's
No idea.
It's like a real-life version of the leg lamp.
Yes.
Let's kind of jump back for a second and talk about that, quote, greasy substance, end quote,
Motor oil?
that the
Yes.
fireman slipped on.
Or is that blood?
Now,
Good.
the St. Petersburg police, they enlisted the help of the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the FBI. And in fact, I need to preface this before I go any further. The majority of the research, and I mean 99% of this research, is pulled from a 115-page FBI recently unclassified document.
Oh, cool.
Specifically on this case. And what's really interesting about this document, and I'll link to it on talkmurder.com, is a lot of the correspondence is at least passed through Hoover's desk, which is the FBI director.
J. Edgar Hoover.
It at least passed through his desk. He at least saw it, is what I'm trying to say. Even if he didn't write the responses, you can 100% assure yourself that he had complete control of the responses going out about this case.
And he was aware of it and everything going on with it.
Because he kind of loomed over the FBI at that time.
Is this part of the unclassified documents about aliens?
No, that's a CIA thing.
I was going to actually ask, does the fact that the FBI, was the FBI involved because of who her husband was?
What do you mean?
Oh, because he was a doctor?
Was her husband like an important official?
I mean, he was a random physician.
Okay, I wasn't sure if they were
That was
going
a good
with.
question, Nicole.
Thank you, Jen.
It was an okay question. I mean,
I didn't know if, like, maybe her husband was a secret.
It was a better question.
Something.
It was a better question than me asking if it was because of the aliens. Like,
okay,
it's more realistic than that.
So this episode obviously is pulled from this 115-page FBI document, and the FBI was extremely influential in this case because this was a mystery. Obviously, was it murder? I mean, all right, someone lit her on fire, but what you're gonna hear in a second is bodies don't burn like that. We're going to kind of look at some quotations from some personnel that work at the crematorium, some embalmers and, morticians. They say that bodies don't burn like that.
Right.
You don't have a body that is completely incinerated except the ankle. That does not happen. That does not even happen even if you have gasoline poured all over the body, which there was none at all.
Well, here's a theory. What if she was murdered? Someone, they cut her up and had her body in a bag and put some accelerant on the chair, and then that leg fell out of the bag and they took her body somewhere else, and they didn't have time to grab it because the fire was starting and they didn't have time to grab that leg.
All right, well, let's just go on. The FBI forensic testing, they found out what that greasy substance was.
Uh-huh.
And you said it was gasoline?
No, I said it was blood.
Blood? What
I
do you
said
say
gasoline.
It is, quote, the greasy substance is, quote,
Her guts.
melted human fat,
Oh.
end quote. And it was splattered on the floors,
so
on
it's
the
almost like
rugs,
her body
on the walls.
exploded.
There was melted human fat covering the ceiling. It was everywhere. It was this greasy substance. I mean, think about tearing a chicken apart, like a rotisserie chicken.
I don't like that.
Like that very greasy, sort of, not even the fat of the chicken, but just that feeling between your two fingers. It's just so slippery, and you're like, I gotta wash this off. That covered the apartment completely.
For the record, we break down a lot of rotisserie chickens in this house for our dog food. So
I was thinking more of if you have corned beef brisket and you're boiling it in the fat.
yeah, it comes up.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the son, right? The son.
Oh, is there an inheritance here?
Mary Reese was a widow. She was happily married to a local doctor, but she lost her husband suddenly and began depending on her son.
How long
for
ago
comfort.
did her husband die?
Recently. This was in the last 2 years of this story.
Okay.
The official FBI report states that Mary's days were, quote, seemed to revolve around her son, Dr. Richard Reeser, end quote. Now, this was a Sunday morning, or actually early Monday morning when they found her body.
Mm-hmm.
Sunday morning, the previous day, Dr. Reeser had taken his family, not her, not the mother. He's taken his own family to the beach for a well-needed vacation. He has been slammed at work, and he needed to expel some of that frustration by taking his sons and his wife to the beach. And they are in Florida, so they're right there. Now, he did not take the mother. However, when he returns to his own apartment, he finds his mother there. This was around 3:30 p.m. So, this is Sunday, 3:30 p.m. She will be dead within 12 hours. They think she died around 5 a.m. So
When the neighbor heard the thump?
yeah, exactly. Monday morning, 5 a.m., they think she succumbed to her demise. 3:30 p.m. on the Sunday, Dr. Reeser and his family walks back into the door, all tanned from being at the beach, to find the mother crying in the chair. Usually, during this time, the mother would spend her summer weeks up north. However, there was some accident, and the old newspaper that I was reading didn't really go into it, but the person that was supposed to drive her up north for her annual vacation got in some kind of car accident, and bottom line, the trip was not only postponed, but it was canceled for that year completely. And being a widow and an elderly lady, you depend on this routine of your life. You know what I'm saying? So when she is not able, or when she finds out she's not able to go to her annual trip up north, she is very devastated. And so she is crying.
Aww.
Now, her son notices her mother starting to take these pills called Seconals. I don't believe they're around anymore. I'm pretty sure they are, but they just changed the name. They're basic barbiturates.
Okay.
So they're like the oxycodons or whatever. You know, the housewives take these things.
Yep.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
and they drink the wine. They take these, the Zoloft, stuff like that, the barbiturates or whatever.
Hysteria, right?
Yeah. And then they go into the bedroom and light the candle and take out the vibrator. Kind of
The
shit.
original cure to hysteria.
But she was taking these Seconals, and she's been taking these for 10 years. It's not a big deal, but
You're used to it by then.
yeah, she had some accident 10 years ago, or surgery or something like that. They prescribed the medicine to her, and she's been addicted, if you will, but not like this. This trip being canceled did her in. She was popping these things, and I'm thinking, these things, if you saw the Wolf of Wall Street, they're like
Quaaludes.
the Quaaludes kind of thing. I mean, that's what they are.
Deep Madden. It's one of my favorite fucking movies of all time. You still haven't seen it yet, have you? Jen, this summer vacation.
I'm working on it. I'm watching The Wire, okay?
What you're looking at now is from the FBI documents. If you want to read what was found in the scene, this is 1 through 14. This is the evidence listed.
Glass fragments found in ashes. 6 small objects believed to be teeth. Metal from near body. Fibers believed to be part of nightgown. Particles of bones found in ashes. Charred fabric believed to be from chair. Cotton material from chair. Charred wood. Charred legs from end table. Charred fabric from rug. Charred fabric from rug. Unburned section of rug, heavily soaked with greasy substance.
Which is melted human fat.
Remainder of ashes. Shoe from foot, not consumed by fire. Chair springs.
So, her body was in there, and that photo that I showed you, that was once her body. It wasn't someone put her foot there to stage the scene. That was her body. So,
What is that?
She was very clearly sitting in the chair.
yeah, she was sitting in the fucking chair. So,
At the bottom it says, etc. Something with petroleum, either human fat, jointly found
Present.
present.
hardly nothing remained of Mary's 170-pound body, but the police put all the remnants in a, quote, small box, end quote, and found was her, quote, charred skull. This is important. Her charred skull, shrunken to the size of a teacup or a baseball.
Wait, what?
What the fuck? How does that happen?
Exactly.
Look up how to shrink heads. Voodoo.
A section of a backbone and a part of a left foot, which was what she saw, still encased in the suede shoe. Let me break this case down to you real quick.
I am so
You
confused.
cannot. All right, let's say you're smoking a joint, Snoop Dogg style, and you got a big old blaze going up like I do every
Never.
Tuesday night, and you're fucking getting high and you feeling good. You put on Yellow Submarine and you fall asleep. That shit falls on you. A lot of people that happens to, and yes, they do die, but guess what? Their body still remains. It may be burned to fuck, but their body is still there. You do not have not a body. and just ashes. Does that make sense? The heat temperature is what I'm trying to get you guys to understand tonight. Was not only unnatural, but impossible. There is no way, not only would her fire burn that hot, but any fire burn that hot unless it was exposed to something, an accelerant and a level, something to keep reapplying to the body to keep it at such a high level. That is the only way. You light your shirt on fire, 500 degrees max. Her body burned at over 2,000 degrees. This house lights on fire, knock on wood. The entire fire of this house up in a blaze would never get over 1,500. This body was well over that.
It incinerated.
It was localized.
Which means there had to have been something that made it go up in flames like that.
She spontaneously combusted, guys. I mean, It happens.
Does it? What does that mean? What is spontaneous combustion? Or actually, what I should say is spontaneous human combustion, SHC, which is a non-proven, non-scientifically proven phenomenon that may or may not actually happen in nature.
May or may not.
All right, let's talk about our son, the killer.
Oh!
No, just kidding. Now, we got to talk about the son just because he was one of the last ones to see her alive.
A coincidence?
As I said before, he took his family to the beach. They get home, see the mother crying. She's taking those barbiturates. She is pissed off. He drives her mother back to the apartment around 8 p.m. that evening. He wanted to make sure his mother was okay, at least to get through this whole summer mess. He leaves. His mother, as he recalls, was wearing a Van Raalte, is VAN space RAALTE, rayon acetate nightgown.
Rayon. That's flammable.
She was rested in her favorite recliner. The one that was only the springs left, and she lit a cigarette, and then he leaves. Okay. So what? The material of the nightgown, is that what you're trying to say?
I mean, certain fabrics are highly flammable.
The material of the nightgown, yeah, exactly. They're flammable, but do they fucking completely incinerate every bone in your fucking body?
Probably
That's
not.
different.
Yeah, it's different.
Okay. And do they shrink your head to the size of a baseball?
Probably not. Okay.
Yeah, they're flammable, but are they fucking flammable? According to the official FBI reports, quote, the body of Miss Reeser was partially cremated with the exception of the left foot, which was burned completely in tow, about 4 inches above the ankle. Quote, the chair in which she had been sitting was completely burned away, leaving just the springs. A small end table was completely burned with the exception of 2 legs. The carpet was burned in an area of approximately 3 feet. Was she murdered? Was this a murder? Police believe no, it was not a murder. And honestly, I'm not going to be able to tell you yes or no if it was a murder or not. My personal opinion is that it was not a murder. But you guys can make your own personal opinions here in a little bit. But there is a theory out there, which Jen had mentioned earlier, called spontaneous human combustion, SHC. It is also known as preternatural combustion, PC. This is unproven. This is not proven in science. There has been no cases where it is 100% proven that this happens, because why the fuck would it happen? How does your body just burst into flames? That's fucking stupid. That doesn't make sense.
It's spontaneous. You can't hold a research study forever and wait for someone to explode.
Yeah, but why? There's no part of your body.
Wait, like I'm just picturing someone behind glass and just staring at them. Combusion, explode now.
Turn up the fucking heat.
I'm just saying, like it's spontaneous. You can't, like, it's almost impossible to catch it naturally happening.
It reminds me of like the men who stare at goats, like
Yes.
that type of experiment.
Yes.
Okay, first off, let's talk about the accelerants that were found at the scene, because there were none. FBI
Interesting. Okay.
FBI forensic testing found absolutely no accelerants used, and then they were making it very clear that they are not saying that they were not used, but because they could have burned up, but they were not found.
Okay.
That's a very different statement. But if you read the 115-page FBI report, you will quickly figure out that the FBI is very adamant that no one poured any substance or accelerants on Mary Reeser. That is clear if you read it and you kind of get the sentiment behind what they're saying. They cannot say that, okay, no one came in there and poured gasoline all over her. No, they can't say that, because that gasoline could have burnt completely up. And they tested, I mean, the area that you're seeing now, they tested every inch of that area. There was nothing. And if there was gasoline poured on the body, say, or some sort of accelerant, it would have splashed on her shoes or something. They tested 100% of everything and found absolutely nothing. Therefore, let's just say, for the sake of this episode, that no one poured fucking shit on her.
Okay.
That takes it up a notch. Let's also say most scientists, 99% of scientists, believe that spontaneous combustion is a bunch of bullshit, because your body just doesn't light on fucking fire. That just doesn't
Agreed.
make any
Makes
sense.
no sense.
Could you imagine if just one of us exploded right now? On the video.
Wasn't that in like some Muppet character and somebody
Probably.
like spontaneously combusted? Now it's really gonna drive me crazy.
However, there are over 100 cases where spontaneous combustion is the only viable option for which this has happened, right?
Like cases similar to this, you mean?
Exactly. Well, very similar. Very similar. I'm talking about the victim was sitting there, no witnesses, all of a sudden completely incinerated except for the very low extremities, maybe a foot or an ankle.
There's got to be a reasonable explanation.
Can we Google witnesses to spontaneous combustion or videos of spontaneous
That
combustion?
Muppet video is going to come up that I'm thinking of.
Now, let me talk about the heat.
Who's the blue one? Beaker? Beaker.
Beaker,
No,
yeah.
Beaker is
Yes.
not. Beaker's not
Beaker
blue.
is the one with the glasses
You're
that
thinking
does
of
the...
Gonzo. Gonzo's the blue one.
No,
But
Beaker.
Beaker's not blue.
Beaker's the tall one
He
with
goes,
the...
"Meep, meep, meep, meep,
Yeah,
meep,
okay,
meep,
you're right. Beaker's not
And
blue.
then Simon is the scientist that has the glasses but no eyes.
Oh, he's got
I'm pretty
eyes.
sure
You
I'm
just can't
thinking
see
of
him.
Beaker. There's a movie. Maybe it's Muppet Treasure Island, perhaps? I don't know. There's one where a Muppet spontaneously combusts, and there's someone listening right now that knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Morticians were interviewed. Plenty of morticians separately about this. They were like, what the fuck? What the fuck? Does this even happen? They said that the consensus with the morticians, a body must be exposed to 1,500 to 2,000 degrees minimum for hours for fully cremation.
And it couldn't have been for
Furthermore-
hours. The whole apartment would have been destroyed.
Furthermore, unlike Mary's body, when you want to cremate a body, not only do you have to keep the body at least above 1,500 degrees, you have to continually spray it with some sort of oil to keep it burning. A mortician cremating a body, I don't know what you guys think, but they don't just throw it in a fucking incinerator. They put it in there and then they spray it constantly until it finally goes down to ashes. You have to have a constant source of accelerant.
That sounds
was,
terrible.
Was the fact that it was so close to the kitchen though
Like with the
a
stove
possible
open?
With the olive
accelerant.
oil just fucking sprayed on
Yeah,
it.
no, but like if it's close to the oven and there's like grease in the oven, right? There's
No.
all of that
Not-
stuff.
no.
An indoor unit. Were there any windows?
Yeah, you got the right
Maybe
idea.
she had a magnifying glass and she was looking, and it was like a science experiment where you burn the ants alive. And you're just like, and she was reading, and she had a cigarette, and then the light from the sun was like on her leg, but not the left leg, the right leg, and then she just like caught fire.
Let me tell you, you got the right idea with the grease and that stuff, but not from the kitchen. There was grease. There was
You mean just her fat?
a substance that kept it burning.
Her fat.
I don't know.
Sunscreen from the beach that she didn't get to go to.
Are you going with her body fat?
All right. There were plenty of letters from armchair sleuths, and if you read the full FBI document, you'll see this. Mary's death ranged from natural phenomenon to natural phenomenon, meaning a lightning bolt came in, which does happen. A lightning bolt comes into the apartment, strikes her, and just fucking incinerates her. And there's actually this really crazy thing that, if you guys want to look up, that I didn't know this was a thing, but it has been noticed since for hundreds and hundreds of years. I'm talking about since the 1600s. It's called ball lightning. When there's a thunderstorm or a lightning storm, there has been witnessed accounts of a electromagnetic ball of lightning that floats around the room.
So an alien.
And if it's fucking crazy, right? Yeah, I was thinking about it. I was like, wait, that's fucking alien.
Ancient aliens.
But that, I guess, the electromagnetism of the earth or whatever conforms this ball of hot heat lightning, and it floats around your fucking house. But there has been cases of that. But when detectives went to the local weather bureau, no thunderstorms, no lightning, clear as day. That didn't happen for this night. No lightning. That's it. One prominent armchair sleuth, I wouldn't say prominent, but he ran this publication called True Crime. I'm not sure if it's still, I really doubt it's still a thing, but it was a weekly news publication. He writes in and says, usually when something like this happens, you need to look at the relatives or any contacts. Is there someone who could benefit financially or
agree.
emotionally? And the only part, and they did. I mean, this is fucking Hoover is telling people to go look based on all these armchair sleuths. Like, they did a diligent job.
And Hoover was a nasty motherfucker too.
So Hoover,
We're watching the Man in the High Castle. And,
yeah, apparently
and
Hoover's
that
a
one,
fucking Nazi.
Hoover is, yeah, he works for the Nazis because it's about if the Nazis won the war.
So let's talk about the son. The son, prominent doctor.
Doesn't necessarily need the money then.
He does not need the money. There's no way he would benefit from the life or death of his mother. In fact, his mother is the one doing his accounting for him. He apparently does not know how to do accounting, so she was taking care of that. That was her role.
That's nice. He should use freetaxusa.com.
What? Is that some kind of spammy fucking cash for title fucking shit?
No, that's what I used to do my taxes.
Get your title back with Title Max.
Oh, you know what? You still have unclaimed property that we haven't figured
John.
done.
Really? There's
Yeah.
probably fucking dead bodies buried
No,
on
I
it.
gotta do that. It's like
it's
it's a
money.
couple $100 that you have in your name.
I don't think I have anything, of course.
But John has a couple $100.
That's
I keep
awesome.
forgetting to do that.
It's my money. You better fucking stay away from
My
it.
money, and I need it now. Call J.G. Wentworth, 877 cash now.
So go back to the list of evidence found. Q5 was a, quote, portion of a cigarette lighter and metal, which may also be part of a lighter.
That is a conductor metal.
Well, so they know she was smoking. All right, let's wrap this up. You guys are in too much suspense.
Here comes this chain.
We may have had a lot to drink.
I had a goblet-sized margarita before this, and I am not ashamed.
Now, there was, I want to mention this, but not even the FBI report went any further than what I'm about to say. But there was a, quote, slight electrical disturbance, end quote, reported that specific night of her death.
Okay.
And the alarm clock, this is interesting. The alarm clock was one of those, digital alarm clocks.
Oh, so it tells you when the power went out.
Yeah. Well, no, the power wasn't specifically out, but it was out in certain outlets. The ones that were really close to the fire, the one that was plugged into the alarm clock, or the alarm clock was plugged in right behind the chair, it went out at 4:20
Okay.
a.m.
That's around 5.
a.m. maybe. No one knows. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
I have a question. Did the kitchenette have a window, or is it a straight up wall? Like, where was her toaster? Did she try to stick something in her toaster?
At 5 in the morning?
Maybe she was hungry.
Okay, let's. What do you guys think? Do you think somebody lit her body on fire?
No, I am staying with my spontaneous combustion theory.
Now, the official report says from the lighter, her cigarette, dropping it on her clothes.
It sounds like she could have been struck by lightning.
I just fucking said that's an impossibility. There's no lightning storms.
But she had an interior unit too. Like, where were her windows that she could?
Well, it does. No, it does happen though. It does.
I don't know what else to say.
I told you
There's
what
got to
happened.
be an explanation aside from spontaneous combustion.
You don't need an explanation with
Spontaneous combustion is not a proven thing, Jen.
That doesn't mean that it's not real.
They were looking at just the lighter, but they said, quote, such a blaze could not have produced the intense heat which consumed the body. Remember, this was hotter than fucking hot, right? This is hotornot.com. Right swipe. Or
No, there was no swiping. It was only rating.
Now, let's talk
I wonder if that website's still up. Can we check? Not right now, but can we check?
Sure.
Okay.
Now, let's talk about her nightgown real quick. She was wearing a specific nightgown, and I don't know if these are still a thing, probably, but she was wearing a rayon acetate nightgown, which acetate is an extremely flammable substance.
That is similar to acetone, like in the nail polish remover.
Oh,
Is
that's
that flammable?
very flammable.
Yes.
It's like pure alcohol.
Yeah, you might as well just like jump into a pool of alcohol.
Okay, well, let me tell you what.
Bacardi 141.
Let me tell you. Let me just finish the story now, because there's nothing more past this but speculation. That is all that you get with the FBI reports. So, if it's not spontaneous, if it's not spontaneous combustion, it's got to be something, right? So, here's
Jen's
what.
still going with spontaneous combustion, but go on.
Well, all right. Okay. Let me preface this right quick, because there is a recent article about spontaneous combustion. This is an article from The Sun. This is actually
Look at that. Spontaneous combustion is real and burns you like an incendiary bomb.
Okay. Before Jen gets all excited, let me tell you what most people believe, because only her ankle was found. Now, the skull, there is no way possible, and multiple scientists and doctors have stated this, there is no way that a skull could be shrunken.
Oh, yeah, that's an interesting.
They were thinking that the skull was planted there. They didn't actually test it to see if it was hers. That's the thing.
This is making
They don't actually know if that foot was hers. They didn't have the fucking DNA back then. They didn't test it. They don't know actually if that was her or not, to be honest, even to today. The skull shrinking to a size of a baseball is, according to most scientists, not only unnatural, but completely infallible. That does not happen. It cannot shrink because
But how do you shrink a head then?
You put it in a pickle jar.
That's a good point. What I looked up is they do use hot sand, but think about it. There is a skull in your fucking head. The skull, the bone does not shrink. Only the fucking fatty material in your head.
Not that quick anyway. I mean,
Your head would not be able to shrink that small. I'm talking about the size of a baseball. A baseball is fucking really tiny. That's like at least 6 times smaller than your head. Or like,
Because I'm like really smart.
actually like 8 times smaller than mine. This was not spontaneous combustion. Sorry, Jen. Close. She's wearing a nightgown. She was extremely high on barbiturates, which, if you do the research in the medicine aspects of the body actually produces acetone when you take a sedative. Okay, keep that in and keep that in mind. Then go back to the acetone rayon, extremely flammable garment she was wearing. She was sitting in a chair smoking a cigarette. Also, she was a, quote, heavy-set woman, end quote. And what you're about to read from the Sun article is that human fat is extremely flammable. And not only is it extremely flammable, but it continues to burn.
So what you're saying is all I need to do is find someone to set me on fire and I'll lose some weight? Is that what we're talking about? Or
in fact...
That's fat burning to the extreme here.
And in fact, from what I saw, every one of the spontaneous combustion cases were of heavy-set individuals. Huh. The fat in the human body is extremely flammable. Go back to the calf, the one long the calf, the within the shoe. What is at the bottom of the foot? Not much fat there, right?
It's muscle.
It's muscle. It's not much fat. Now, there's not a lot of fat to burn, but what was all over the walls and the ceiling and fucking everything else? What had happened is she did light herself on fire, from what most people believe. She was burning up. And then as her fat started to cook, it exploded all over the fucking walls. Holy shit.
Yikes. Jen's like, oh my God. I need to make sure there's no house fires.
Now,
I can see the wheels.
This article right here is from the Sun. This is actually extremely interesting. And it's the scientist that has been studying this for a long time. But he talks basically about what I was talking about, the fat in your body.
It's using this case.
Yeah, it uses this case. And he says, quote, humans suddenly burst into searing hot flame. Left alone, their bodies burn fiercely until little but hot ash remains through the hands and legs may remain unscathed. Keep in mind here, this article, he is also saying that, and he actually goes into saying, if you're sick and you have like a cold, your body will produce certain chemicals within your bloodstream and stuff like that, like acetone, which are also flammable. So if you're also overweight and you're introduced to a fiery substance like a cigarette butt, then that could happen.
I mean, also if you're ill, like your body temperature increases as well. You get fevers and stuff.
True.
So this article, he proves that
alcoholism was traditionally thought of as a risk factor.
Yeah. So quote,
I'm fucked.
Quote, fatty flesh, even when soaked in alcohol, does not burn, yada, yada, yada. However, when a person is ill, they sometimes naturally produce traces of acetone in the body, and acetone is highly inflammable. She was wearing an acetone fucking nightgown, remember?
Plus producing acetone from her drug.
Quote, I experimented with a scale model humans using pig flesh that had been marinated in acetone. They burn like incendiary bombs.
Wow.
Holy shit.
It's using all of these pictures from the... from Mary Reeser.
Quote, the alleged cases of SHC, which is spontaneous human combustion, range from the peculiar to the laughable. Bodies don't just burst into flames. Many cases involve obvious external sources of fire, matches and cigarettes being the most common. And I did see that in all the other ones. There was some sort of external flame of some sort. Yeah. So
something that's causing the fire to start to begin with.
Yeah. Let me see. SHC believers often cite as evidence the fact that a body has been completely reduced to ash, except for the ends of the arms and legs. But there's a good explanation for this phenomenon. It is called the wick effect. Holy shit.
Like a candle.
Oh, and one other thing. There were candles in her apartment, but this was also strange. The candles completely burned down except for the wicks. every candle. She had like 10 candles. She had Jen's 37 candles in her fucking house.
They're in my closet right
Every
now.
one of them
Are
were
you going
burned down.
through them?
Slowly.
The burning of the clothes is maintained by the liquefied fat wicked from the body of the victim, causing a slow burn that can nearly consume the victim and resulting in the greasy brown substance, often coating the nearby walls, which is what the firemen slipped on. So basically, remember when I said the crematorium, they have to keep spraying the body? Well, guess what? They don't have to keep spraying the body. If your fat soaks up from your skin, guess what? That is a constant supply of fucking flammable material until you're nothing. Shit. So don't drink and
Brought to you by the Atkins diet.
exercise and don't drink.
Well, that's not what we're
This
doing here on
episode brought
this.
to you by the exact opposite of Jen's lifestyle.
But what do you guys think? Most people don't think it's a murder, even though it's really interesting. And some of
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
some of the facts I need to point out that I still can't explain. No one can is the shrunken skull, because the skull should not
that's
shrink
interesting.
Yeah.
to, even if at that hot of a temperature, it should never shrink that much. That is something interesting. Plus, no one actually knows if that was her. Obviously, it probably was, but no one has ever tested if that was actually her. Someone could have planted that. And going back to the localization of the fire, real quick, I am not a fire chief or whatever, but apparently when a fire burns at that high of a temperature, what happens, and the reason I say this is because all the outlet plugs and the light switches were not melted, but everything else was. The fire produces such a hot plume of air that it almost protects everything else around it and only burns anything with inside that plume of air, that very hot, scorching air. That's why if you look at the walls, everything 4 feet and up, and you can see that from the picture, the bottom of the walls weren't burned up. It was just that top and then the ceiling. The light switches were fine. The electrical outlets were fine. Nothing was melted. They were plastic. So 2,000 degree heat and the light switches aren't melted. You know what I'm saying? They explain it as it creates this plume, this barrier where nothing else can really burn except inside this plume of air. That is the basics of that. But that's basically the story. I don't know what you guys think of that.
That was fascinating.
I loved it. Thank you, John, for that lovely story.
But yeah, that's a crazy story. Anyway, go
A
talk.
reminder to put out your cigarettes before you go to sleep.
Yeah.
So anyway, go to talkmurder.com to see those photos. And the next story on Thursday, we have a very interesting story. It is July 11th. And what is July 11th, Jen?
Free Slurpee Day at 7-Eleven.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, 7-Eleven.
The
Yeah.
fuck? There's a 7-Eleven right down the street. Why don't we just go get one?
Okay.
We also can.
What is also today?
World Population Day.
You know I told you. Today is
What do you mean you told me? I'm the one that does the holidays.
Today is July 11th. So Thursday's story will be about a murder or shark attack. It is Shark Week.
Oh.
Starting today, it is Shark Week, July 11th. So look forward to that. Subscribe if you haven't. Go talkmurder.com. We're also filming this on YouTube, youtube.com. Type in Talk Murder to Me podcast. This is episode 242. And until next time, good night, you lovely, lovely people. Banana, 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 banana.